Hello, Internet. Welcome to 2.5 Brains. This is our latest recap of the latest episode of The Amazing Race Season 34, Episode 5. We're going to break it all down, talk all about it. Be sure to subscribe so you don't miss anything. You can look at our Facebook page, Pavement Road Productions on Facebook. It's Pavement Road, facebook.com/Pavement Road Prod. You also can email the show directly, pavementroadproductions@gmail.com. And subscribe and share the post. Tell your friends. Obviously, this is our Amazing Race recap. We did our recap earlier tonight. So you'll probably see this one, maybe early Thursday or maybe, late Wednesday, depending on where it is for you on what part of the world you're watching this from. So, obviously, you may hear some feedback from Bailey and Selena as well, because they're gonna, Bailey is relaxing, and Selena's gonna attack him, and then of course, he's gonna bark, and then she's gonna whine and attack our feet. So you may hear some feedback from the animals, but we'll try to get this out to you here as soon as we can, without too many distractions, interruptions. Right, Jessica?
Right.
Welcome to the show. How you doing?
Oh, thanks. I'm good. How are you?
Good. This is Jessica's gonna take over here. I'm gonna kind of sit back and let her do it. I was, talking a lot earlier, so I'm gonna let her take this one.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
You get sick of talking?
I talked a lot for the first show, so this is all you.
Oh, okay.
I'm getting worn out, so.
Got it. All right. So, Amazing Race recap.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, initial thoughts about the show. What are your initial thoughts?
So it was interesting. They went to the first time ever. They went to the Republic of Jordan. I mean. Georgia is a country too. Republic of Jordan. And they were on a train that had like some. It was like, I went to a show, I think it was maybe in Florida, it's called Arabian Nights, where they had like guys on horses with swords and everything like that, and they rode up along, and it was something similar to that. They rode up alongside the train, and it was really interesting. And they stopped and got out, and they all got on the plane together, and they still left in groups, so.
Right, yeah.
It seems like it's been kind of hard for the last group to catch up with the first, but this season's been interesting though, because there's still some teams I feel like are not gonna make it much longer, and there's other teams I feel like have a good shot to win. But there's nobody who's like, oh my god, they're definitely the best team. Mm-hmm. There's nobody I'm feeling like super like. I mean, I think they're the 5 legs. Like obviously the one with the mega legs, there wasn't a winner till the end. So the 4 legs and 4 different teams have won. Mm-hmm. And. So, I don't know. It really could go either way.
Yeah. Yeah, no, I don't think there's any front runner of who I can say absolutely will win the race out of anybody, so I agree with that. And yeah, the beginning was awesome with the steam train. I took some notes because I knew I'd forget, but how was it the steam train dating back to the Ottoman Empire or something like that? So that was cool piece of history, and it reminds me of like not cops and robbers, but like you said, it's like seeing them come up to the train, like
Jesse James,
right? And it was interesting. I really liked that part of it. So yeah, that was cool. And being in Jordan, something different.
Never been there before.
Very hot. It's hot. I'm not angry. It's hot. And if you watch Fluffy, you'll understand that joke.
Yes.
But anyways.
Yeah, it was the first time I've ever been there, so it's interesting. Very interesting.
Yeah. All right, so we will shimmy on over to the first part of the roadblock, the Who Wants to Test Their Mettle. So in this one, they're going to a part in the desert where they've filmed various movies. I know I heard like Star Wars and can't really
Indiana
Jones, yeah. Different movies, and it's basically like a set where a spaceship crashed into the desert and they need to find a piece of the spaceship or whatever it is, show it to the guy, and then they get their next direction on where they need to go. I won't necessarily say clue, but they're told where to go from there. So they get metal detectors. One person is doing it out of each team, and they're scanning the desert for this piece of metal for their next location, which is Petra.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So obviously each team, there's only one person from each team can do it, and so that's the roadblock. Some teams did really well. Some teams had really good strategies. Other teams had no strategy at all.
Yeah, and then bringing it back to probably was last year, I think, when they had to flip all those rocks.
Exactly my thought.
It reminded me of the same thing. They had to flip the stone, find the coin on the back of it, where, you can't really easily track where you flipped. I feel like with those, though, with the stones, they could have just kept them flipped. A lot of people were flipping them and putting them back. Like, I would have just kept flipping them and leaving them in a certain way, but it's neither here nor there. But same thing, it's hard to track where you are in the sand. There's footprints, and then you can track your footprints, but when there's more people, how do you know where you've looked before and where you haven't, or wherever other people have looked?
Right, and also there's a finite number. The Barry, the thing is what Derek said, there's a finite number in the sand, so if you're the first team to get there, you have you can find one of 8.
Right.
If you're the last team to get there, you have to find one
Yeah.
of one.
Dwindles down per each team that leaves.
Also, there's a lot of trash buried, which is interesting. I didn't think they actually would do that. But
Well, that's why I was saying to you, I'm like, I wonder if there's a decoy or something that throws you off, because how, if it's that easy where you're just using the metal detector to show you where it is, and nothing else to throw you off, that's, pretty simple. I know you have to find it within a giant area, but still. But yeah, I was at Lumba, found a couple cans, and then David found a piece of a motor or something. Yeah, that was pretty interesting.
Yeah.
It was different.
For sure.
Yeah.
What's next?
Next will be a detour. This one is Camel Caravan or Palace Puzzle. So the Camel Caravan is where you have to set up, I would say, like a feeding station. I don't know what they called it. With water, they have to fill up the water to a certain point, but they can only use 3 jugs to fill up the water from the cistern. And then once they fill the water up, in whatever order, and then they have to go get the hay, 4 bags of hay in the area, and then they have to go get 3 camels and bring them over and feed them the hay, get them to drink some water, and then you pass on and get your clue for the pit stop, which you would never get me to leave that area because I would just keep feeding the camels and hang out with them. Mm-hmm. So that would be too fun for me. So I'd probably have to do the other one, which is the Palace Puzzle. Mm-hmm. So this one's a slide puzzle, which we see that a lot on Survivor. And, slide puzzles can be a struggle, especially because you can only go in a certain order. You only have one extra space. People are going to get confused quickly. But surprisingly, a lot of people picked, I guess not surprisingly, a lot of people picked the Palace Puzzle because the other one was so much more strenuous than just the slide puzzle. And in the heat, he's hot. I don't know which one I would have rather done. Probably the puzzle because it's too hot, but I would like to play with the camels also.
Yeah, and I'm not good at puzzles, so you'd probably take the lead on that one, but especially slide puzzles. I can do other puzzles decently, but not slide puzzles. And I always want to do the physically demanding one, but sometimes in the heat, it was probably 110 degrees there.
It had to be at least that, maybe more, and especially in the sun. In the shade, it was probably still hot, but
Yeah, well, part of it was in the shade because of getting the bags of hay, but other than that, everything else was right in the sun and getting roasted.
Yeah, no, I would have been burnt to a crisp, unfortunately.
Yeah,
but
that
would have been warm. Yeah, I would have been pretty angry. You would have been talking to me, and I would have been the one that they want to keep showing me on camera because I'm just in a pissy mood with my face angry, and you're like, you okay? We got this? You ready? Shut up and do it. Basically.
Yes.
Yeah, that's what I would
have done. That sounds right.
Yep. Mm-hmm.
I feel like I've heard that before, though.
Yeah, probably. Maybe in the 100-degree weather at a baseball game.
Or in D.C., yeah.
Yeah, that's what I mean. In D.C., seeing a game, I didn't like the teams, but it's fine. It's all good. I survived.
You did. Speaking of which, who did not survive?
Who did not survive,
but who got eliminated? Don't get eliminated.
Are we surprised? No. It is Sharik and Linton. They fell, they obviously were one of the last teams last week, or they were the second last team, yeah. So they were in the last group. They were the last to leave the metal detector test. The father, Sharik or Linton, was last to leave that one. Had a hard time finding it. She's getting angry because he wasn't checking the middle, where you can't really tell where it is because you don't know where people took it before. But I digress.
And that's where it was too. Mm-hmm.
What's that?
That's where it was too.
Right, it was in the middle, so they got lucky there. But you never know. A lot of people took the strategy of starting in the outside, which probably worked out. And then if people did that, then you can work your way into the middle. But and then surprisingly though, they picked the Camel Caravan as their task, where I'm sure we all know Shriek didn't want to really do anything strenuous, and I can't believe they did that in the sun and that they didn't want to do the slide puzzle, but they might not have felt confident enough to do that one.
Right. Well, this is a fifth leg or fifth, I guess, roadblock, and Linton did 4.
Yes. Yeah.
And the one that Shriek did, she did really bad on.
Right.
And Linton didn't do good on this one either.
Right. This one would have been so easy for her to do. I just don't understand why she didn't do it. I mean, they get a little blurb about what they're doing in the clue, right? Like, it tells them, like, what they're doing.
They get a little something, yeah.
Right. So,
and if you get there and you can see what everyone else is doing, you know what you're doing.
Right. No, I know. But, if she was going to, I don't want to say if she was going to judge so much of how he was doing it, if, she should have just did it herself. But in a sense, yeah, if you think that you could have did it better, then you should have taken this one. And I mean, they struggled. Her attitude started to dwindle. She was getting exhausted with things. This one, I feel like you didn't need a sense of direction much, except for, I guess, the detour somewhat.
Yeah.
But everything you had a driver for.
They had a driver, yeah, because women can't drive, so they had to have a driver, which is fun. And then they had to walk, the rest of it, right? So they walked to, the detour, then they had to walk to the pit stop and like that. So anything that was actually anywhere of distance, they had a driver.
Right.
So they didn't have to worry about it.
Right. So, I mean, ultimately, why do you think they were eliminated?
I mean, they got really far behind. They weren't strong enough to keep up. Linton was carrying them. Shriek didn't really do much. Didn't have a good attitude. And a lot of times it's communication or it's attention to detail. In this case, I would say it's, because it's usually one of those two things. In this case, I would say it was communication just because one was so negative that the other one had to try to keep them up and keep them going.
Right.
And, it's exhausting.
Mm-hmm.
So, like, he's older. He's doing most of the work. And then on top of that, you got to keep her spirits
motivated.
up.
Yeah.
And, like, it's just too much for one person.
Yeah. No, it's exhausting. And especially, each relationship is different. So a father-daughter relationship versus, like, a couple is completely different. Yeah. So, I couldn't, it had to be harder for him to have her keep up with him and keep the attitude going.
And like I say, a lot of times it's also decision making, and I think they would have slide puzzle. They probably would have finished because Aubrey and David really struggled with that. Yeah. They were really struggling.
Yeah.
So I mean, maybe, and who knows?
I mean, there wasn't a clue or anything there, so there was no direction for them.
Yeah. Right.
I love that one. Ding, 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 ding.
Yeah, that always it's flashes on the screen. And it's like, you idiots.
Yeah.
But when you're there, it's harder to tell. And like I said, it's always one of those things too where you always got. Derek said too, there's always a trick to it. And once you figure out the trick, you're good. Mm-hmm. And for them, like it's like the sculpting thing. They're not gonna do sculpt. Like the slide puzzle. They're not gonna do a slide puzzle with no clue. Just think about it.
Right.
Take a step back and observe.
Right.
It's funny. The first team got eliminated, they did that really, really well. They took too long doing it. But that was one thing they did really well. Like, if you take a minute and say, okay, let's plan this out before we do it.
Yeah.
Then you usually will do a lot better instead of just running really, really fast and in the wrong direction.
Right.
And so Shriek and Linton, it was really, I think, the biggest thing is they weren't strong necessarily in the challenge. They weren't going to overcome a ton of obstacles, and Linton had to carry the team, and it was hard to keep, to carry the team. And do all the tasks and keep Shriek from quitting. Yeah. All that, I think, is why they didn't win.
Yeah, no, I agree. I wish they would have had she would have had a better outlook of it. Like, just appreciate that time with your dad. You never know whatever is going to happen. So that had to be nice to be able to do that and just, enjoy the experience.
Yeah. Don't take everything for granted, and, hopefully they learn something from it. Hopefully, so they became even closer together, which they were always really close anyways. And now they're even closer. And I said, you never know. You never know when something, somebody's not going to be around or whatever. And you're not going to see these places ever again, probably. So
most likely not. Take
it in, enjoy it, and instead of being negative and mad, just take it. Be positive and take what you can get out of it.
Right. Yeah. Exactly.
Anything else?
I won't even go into how she said that she hasn't done anything. She's used to be physical and is no longer, but I'm not even going to get into that. I got something else that I can talk about after.
Yeah, right, exactly. You got one of your things.
I did. Mm-hmm.
And, should just stay positive. Don't let things get you down too much because it's, if you don't enjoy yourself, you're gonna regret it.
Yeah.
It's like there's a player on Survivor who quit because she was, she wanted to go home to her daughter or whatever, which was dumb, and they said, well, there's an opportunity for you to make money and win the game for your daughter.
Yeah.
Why would you give up? You're gonna regret it.
Yeah.
And I'm sure she did.
Oh, I'm sure.
But it's like in the moment you're like quitting seems easy. It's not gonna be, you can't see yourself getting through it. But after looking back, you regret quitting.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, for sure. Agreed. We have a stalker right now that might attack.
The kitty.
Spray bottle. Anyways. So that is who got eliminated. I think not surprising now. It's going to be more of a surprise on who is going to get eliminated next is basically how I feel.
We'll see. I have a feeling I think the team on the bottom of the ranking I think it's probably going to be next.
I have that thought too.
But you
never know.
You never know.
Exactly. All right.
Speaking of power rankings.
Exactly. Let's move on to the power rankings.
Only 8 teams left, right?
There is only 8 teams left. So a little bit of movement this week.
Yeah.
As we kind of talked about last week, that there could be some, and it definitely was time to change it up a little bit.
Mm-hmm.
So starting with number 8, unfortunately, it is Aubrey and David.
Yeah, my
your dancers.
Mm-hmm.
Yep. So why do you think that they're number 8 right now?
I think they're number 8. They finished 8th, so that's part of it. They've had a lot of not lack of attention to detail. They've been communicating well, getting along well. They're just both very small. Like they're not like super there's no big strong person there. They're both smaller. They're both it's like dexterity and that kind of stuff, and choreography is their strength, but there's not a lot of like the big strong powerful guy or whatever, and they've had a lot of attention to detail, a lot of silly mistakes. Like he was actually doing I think they even got their second last. I think they were third last to leave the thing. He was running around outside the course,
right,
to look for stuff. Like
right.
Obviously, it's not gonna be outside the course.
Right.
Like you're not paying attention to the little things like that. And there's no key for us to go off of. The key's in front of you.
Yeah.
Look up. It's right there.
Right.
It's like, so they're not paying great attention to detail. They're not super strong. They're in good physical shape, but that's really it. And they're not strong enough to make the mistakes they're making and survive. They're just not strong enough to do that.
They don't have the ability to dig themselves out of a hole if they get into it.
Correct.
And when they have.
And they have been getting holes now. There's no runway left. You gotta do better. You can't, And unfortunately for them too, I mean, I do think there could be a couple of challenges coming up that will be good for them, and they'll be able to maybe survive a couple more weeks because they have some stuff that's easy for them. But unless they have that, they're gonna struggle.
Yeah.
And I think that's a problem.
Yeah, I mean, I agree with most of what you said, except I don't fully agree with the whole don't having strength, that a man that has strength or anything, because look at Molly and Emily, they've been killing it. Week after week, they have these random strengths that no one would have ever seen them to have. It's just, I think it's a lot more of just attention to detail, like you said, and, they kind of give them, you say, like the dodo edit sometimes, and especially with the slide puzzle, like that whole thing where they don't have any clue and it's right in front of you, but they might be able to dig themselves out. I'm sure there's some sort of musical or dancing thing coming up pretty soon. I would assume.
There's usually, every couple legs, usually some sort of performing or something, and that'll help.
Yeah.
So they got to kind of hold on until they get to that, and then hopefully crush that.
Yeah.
But again, part of the problem is too they're starting them all staggered, so it's so hard for you to be the last and catch up.
Yeah.
You could fall last,
right.
But once you're last, it's hard to catch up because you're leaving. Like previous seasons, except for last season, whatever. Previous seasons, you'd leave around the same time you got there, but then you get to like the first task, and it is open till 8:00, so everybody gets there.
Right. I remember that.
Yeah. And they're not doing that this year because of COVID. They're trying to keep everybody staggered, which hurts if you fall behind.
Right.
And that's a bit, that's why the teams who are in front have been just winning.
Right.
But
winning.
Exactly. Duh.
Anyways, so that is Aubrey and David number 8. Moving on to number 7, the cheerleaders. Now,
Maddie and Quentin, yeah.
Manny and Quentin, yeah. I don't feel like they've been getting much of an edit. Like, they kind of show them there and that they're doing well and they're not last, but, they're not getting any kind of superstar edit. They're not getting an edit of that they're doing really well or, like, improving or anything. They're just kind of there, in my opinion.
Yeah, if you name all the teams, they're the one you forget. They're
Yeah.
definitely the Ninjas,
Yeah.
I guess you can say. But also, I just, looking at, if I rank all the teams, just they just jump out as seventh.
Mm-hmm.
Like, they're not the worst team left, but they're certainly not the best. And if they make 2 more weeks, I'll be surprised.
Yeah. I mean, they're pretty successful, but at the same time, I don't see them, digging their way out either.
No.
Yeah. Agreed.
What's that?
Team number 6. Number 6 in the power rankings. I don't know why I paused. Team Miami.
Yep.
So my team, was it Team Pastelillos or something? Or I forgot what, some sort of food that they had on their shirts.
Yeah.
But anyways, they've been doing a lot better. Today they were first.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, they were.
So that was exciting. So I guess, though, for them, it's kind of proves that you can pull ahead of other teams. Just depends on which one you choose or where you are. They were in the second round that left.
Mm-hmm.
But, I mean, Michael, the brothers, Emily and Emily, they were ahead of them. And maybe they got lost. I mean, nothing was exactly shown why.
Yeah, they all caught up. Like, the top 5 finishers all kind of ended up in the same spot at the same time.
Right at the roadblock together. Yeah. So that was weird. Or at least the detour. The detour, yeah. They had such a large start. And then, all of a sudden the cheerleaders and Team Miami catch up. But, I can't say I'm positive that they're going to win. They're doing well, and, like, they're got a little bit more of a edit, obviously, and probably showing because they won the leg today. But, I'm still rooting for them. I think that they are a good complement to each other. He's got strength, even though it's not exactly needed brute strength, but it's good to have. And she's also got skills too that I guess you wouldn't assume her to have too. So they've been doing pretty well.
They're smarter than they look.
They are smarter than they look, especially tonight. But I mean, doing the slide puzzle, and they did really well with that. But they are definitely smarter than they look.
Yeah, and I said, they definitely have jobs where they're more, just doing physical stuff, but the reason I say the brute strength thing too is I feel like you want to have a diverse skill set. Somebody who's so that way any task that comes up you can do, and even if you have a choice between 2, one of them's gonna fit your skill set in some way because you have multiple skill sets.
Right. No, I agree.
That's the only reason I say that, but
Yeah.
I agree. I think they are 6th because they could probably be higher. But one leg does not make a trend. If they're 2nd or 3rd next week, then they're 1st again, then they're gonna be way higher.
If they can keep going where they are, then maybe they'll get a little bit higher. But right now, this is like a starting point.
For sure, agreed. What's next?
Next, team number 5. So Glenda and Lumumba. They've fallen to 5.
Yep.
They were towards the end of the pack again. I think did they finish 7th?
Yep.
No, they finished 6th because your team finished, 7th, and then Aubrey, and never mind. I mean, they've fallen back. They haven't been able to dig themselves out of when they left last in Italy from the first part of the Mega League. Mm-hmm. So, I think they're getting along well. You can kind of see a little bit more bickering, I think, in between them, and I think it's just attention to detail stuff. They were the only team that we saw check out the Camel Caravan first and then change to the other task right away, which was smart. And they did well. I mean, they beat out some teams that were still at the slide puzzle and got to the pit stop.
Yeah, they did, and they said they went from Italy where they were left. They started the second half of the Mega League last. They jumped I think a team or 2, and then they jumped another team, and they basically have been jumping a team every week since they were last. So, they're not like going from last to first. They're not jumping. I feel like they're a really, really great team. They jump from like last to like back up to near first, and they're not quite doing that, but they are jumping. Like I said, jumping a team every week basically. So they're a strong team. They're not like some teams fall behind. They just stay there.
Right.
They're not staying there, but they're also not jumping as much as I'd like them to. Also,
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like if they finished like if they went and finished third today, they're probably number one. They're probably number one
Yeah.
on my list because they came from last to first or third, you know, and so they didn't do that, but they also didn't stay last. So
Right.
I think they're kind of getting back up towards the front, but they haven't quite made it there yet, so they're kind of more middle of the pack right now. And I think they might be kind of a middle of the pack team now you look at it. And I don't mean middle of the pack like from the beginning. I feel like middle of the pack from what's left.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So I would say like they're not like, you know, they're not the seventh best team of the 12.
Right.
They're maybe the fourth best team of the 8.
Yeah, and I think a little bit now it's getting into attention to detail for them is kind of lacking just because with the metal detector, you know, he was finding cans and garbage and stuff, and it's like I'm sure somewhere in the clue it said, you know, you're finding a piece of a spaceship or whatever.
Right.
So it's like obviously you should know that that isn't anything that you're looking for. So just keep pressing on instead of going for a check with something you know isn't going to be what it is.
No, for sure. I agree. I completely agree. And like I said,
It all started when they didn't drive their car.
right. No, for sure. Attention to detail is huge. They get behind, they start to panic a little bit, and they try to just do things and instead of saying, okay, well, what's the smart thing to do? You know, it's like, you know, just trying to make the move and make a decision without, you know, thinking through all the aspects of it. And, you know, not for nothing also, but, you know, when there's 12 teams, there's going to be a couple duds. And there's going to be a couple teams who go out early, and, you know, you're going to seem really good. You beat, well, I finished 6th. Yeah, but 3 of them sucked, you know, so it's like you're not really 6th. You know, you're more 9th if you look at it that way. So, I still think they could win the whole thing. But they're, you know, I'm not as high on them as I was a couple weeks ago, I'd say.
Yeah, agreed.
What is next?
Number 4, Team Alabama, or Childhood Sweethearts, I guess we could
Or
call
the high
them.
school kids or whatever.
High school, yeah. So they're really growing on me. They're pretty smart, you know. They haven't gotten frustrated once either that I've noticed. They're pretty much just put your head down, keep going, keep doing what you're doing, and get it done. I think she did the, is it Aubrey?
Abby.
I knew I was on the right track.
Yeah, okay.
Abby did the roadblock. Can't talk. And she did pretty well. You know, she didn't take her too long to find the piece. Once they got in there and the slide puzzle and everything, they did pretty well working together.
The slide puzzle, she crushed the slide puzzle. She didn't do great in the thing.
No.
Because they got there and they left 5th. They were the second group, so they actually got there 3rd and left 5th. So she was last of her group, but as soon as everybody else got there, she got it. It was good.
Right.
And then she crushed the slide puzzle. So
Right.
they did.
That's right. Yeah, she left after Dave, or not David.
After Louise.
Louise.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So like I said, overall, I mean, they're doing well. She did fine. They're definitely growing. Definitely doing better. To me, they kind of remind me of like a naive player on Survivor. They're there. They're having fun. They're doing a good job, but they're just not. They don't have. I don't think that next gear, which is the only reason they're not higher for me. But they are doing well. They're definitely not taking themselves too seriously. They're positive. They're having fun, and that always carries you. I mean, look, you remember Team Fun from a couple seasons ago?
Oh yeah.
They almost won, you know, but they just didn't take themselves too seriously. They had a good time. At some point, you have to click it into the next gear, and I don't know if they have that next gear, but staying positive and having fun and communicating and having attention to detail, that gets you at least far. You know, whether that can carry you to the win is another story, but it does get you far.
They haven't said that. I feel like the nail in the coffin half the time is slow and steady wins the race. So they haven't said that. I've heard other teams say it, but yeah, I mean, having a good time and being positive has been a good thing for them. Hopefully, it keeps them moving.
No, for sure, I agree. I definitely agree. They definitely seem like they're having fun, and that's always, like I said, that's always a good way to go.
Yeah.
You at some point you gotta go beyond that, but for right now they are. They're doing well, having fun. So we'll see what they do beyond that.
Yeah, agreed.
What's next?
Next is team number 3, Derek and Claire.
Yeah.
So you notice these were the adjustments. So they've kind of jumped Glenda and Lumumba. Yes. So Derek and Claire. Claire said one of my absolute favorite things today.
What'd she say?
I forgot what job she said. It was like CSI or FBI or something.
She's,
and like
She's a data analyst for the FBI or something.
Right. Yes. So, she's got to go through things and see different trends and decipher it. And, that definitely generates into doing a slide puzzle. Definitely have experience because of, analyzing stuff. And then, of course, I can do a slide puzzle because I'm analyzing it and I'm analyzing documents and words. And it's the same exact thing. So somebody finally said it. I knew it was going to happen at least once. Drives me nuts. I also am an analyst of things and sorts, and it doesn't mean I'm going to do a slide puzzle any better than anybody else. But
right. I one time read a book, so I can definitely drive a car.
Yeah, or last season, I love cheese and eat a lot of it, so of course I can make cheese.
Yeah,
obviously, really easy, but
unlike Tyler and Corey, if you remember them, because they always knew somebody or did every task that they were they were like, oh yeah, my cousin actually owns a bakery. I actually used to help them bake pies.
Right.
It's so this is a baking challenge, so you obviously know how to do that because you actually do.
Right.
But that's funny.
No, yeah, but anyways, they're doing well. They've I think they jumped up a little bit. They finished 4th, I think, today.
They were 4th or 3rd,
yeah.
And they were good.
Okay.
Because they were first, I think they won the first leg, and then they finished 4th, and then they finished 7th, and one more time they're out.
Yeah.
And they jumped back up to the 3rd or 4th again this time.
Yeah,
so
they dipped and came back up again, so they've kind of been improving themselves.
And Derek's been doing really well. I'm surprised how well Derek's doing. Obviously, I think Claire's pretty strong too, and she did really well in the slide puzzle, as she kind of said. But
they did, but they were also there a little longer than I think another team that came after them. So they did well, but
and Derek's been doing better on the actual roadblocks.
Right. Well, and that's the thing though. I feel like from the beginning they kind of chose the wrong roadblocks for each other because this is definitely something Claire could have done. Anybody could have really done this one, though it was kind of warm and you're walking around and it's very hot out. But, when she chose the one she did, she struggled so hard. So I wonder what it would have been like if it was reversed.
Yeah.
But yeah, he's been doing good when he's gotten to his roadblocks.
And like I said, it's really hard to say who's going to do well. I feel like they're a team that, I feel like a lot of the teams I think left are pretty evenly matched, like I said. And so I can see them winning, but I also, again, I wouldn't necessarily bet on it either.
Right.
So, but again, I said early on, they had the advantage of being on a reality TV show before and be able to just perform without the cameras being there.
Right. Next is Survivor.
Right, exactly. So, there's nobody's done the trifecta yet, I don't think, but there's been some who've done 2 shows, and I bet you if anybody does the trifecta, it's gonna be Rachel Riley. I'll put my chip on her.
Who?
Rachel Riley. We'll be the one who does all 3.
Who's this? Who this?
The Amazing Race is supposed to be fun and good.
Oh yeah.
She'll be the one to do all 3. She's done 2 already, and she loves Survivor. So if anybody's gonna do all 3, it'll be her.
Ow.
I know there's been people who've done Big Brother and Amazing Race. There's people who've done Big Brother and Survivor. People who've done Amazing Race and Survivor, Amazing Race and Big Brother, but nobody's done all 3. And that was a hilarious thing I just said. No, it's not. Cause nothing I say is hilarious.
I'm sorry for everybody go, ow, ow, ow.
Oh, the cat was attacking your foot.
She was kicking off my foot. That was funny.
She's talking her mouse.
And sounded weird.
She's stalking her mouse and your foot's in the way. So.
Yeah, exactly. Anyways.
What's next?
So, yes. So, next is team number 2. So 2 and 1 I feel like can be interchangeable to a point. But at team number 2 we have Molly and Emily.
Yep.
So this week one of them did get injured. Again, I don't know which one is which yet. I have to try and figure that out for next time. She hurt her thigh when they were running up the dune. Was it to get to the roadblock? So that kind of held them back slightly. With that, she couldn't really do too much physical or do too much running and everything. But they did pretty well, I feel like, for what they did. They didn't take them too long to find the piece with the metal detector. They were running right after Marcus and Michael, and they were neck and neck with them the whole time. That's why it was pretty odd when they weren't there first or second for the detour, but that's fine. But, I still, like watching them, like seeing what they're up to, what they're doing and everything. And I think they're going to continue to do well.
Yeah, they're definitely. I'd say they're probably my favorite team on the race. Just overall,
agree.
just for likability and everything else, and their story. I don't know. I really don't have much to add to that. I would just say I do like them, and yeah, I don't know. Really not much else to add. I guess as far as that goes, they definitely could be at 1 or 2 or 3. I wouldn't have any arguments to.
Yeah,
to that.
no, I agree. I think they're going to stay up in the top for a while.
The only other thing, the only real caveat. There's 2 caveats. One, we got a preview for next season or next episode. And it's pretty terrifying.
Mm-hmm.
That you want to talk about it, or somebody tests positive for COVID, so I assume they're gonna be pulled,
I would assume.
or somehow quarantined, or the other person has to do it on their own. I don't know.
Right.
The other person has to do the whole leg by themselves. I don't know, but they'll probably be pulled. Which that could be anybody. Somebody's doing really well. They could be first team could have somebody get pulled,
Yeah, it's pretty depressing.
and that'd be horrible.
I
That
really
sucks.
hope it's not them.
I really hope it's. I mean, it sucks whoever it happens to.
It does.
Like last season, there's 4 teams who had a chance, and I mean they were all gonna win,
Couldn't
but
come back.
they couldn't come back. It's like that sucks so bad. So once lifetime opportunity just gets taken from you. It sucks.
Yeah, and it was pretty exciting to watch some of the teams that were there, and then they didn't come back,
Yeah.
and that was sad.
Yeah, for sure. But also there was a team who had a father-son. The father hurt his leg, couldn't continue, and they had to go to the pit stop so he could be eliminated because they couldn't go any further.
Mm-hmm.
And if she has a bad leg injury, hopefully it's nothing. Hopefully it's just a muscle. Usually is fine. You can whatever.
Just rest up.
Rest up. And she got a little while to do that now. Hopefully, but if it gets worse, it could be a problem too. And that team who got injured, they had to be pulled from the race, and then they end up coming back on All Stars and won. So, but
You
still,
just never know what's gonna happen.
never what's gonna happen for sure.
Yep.
Anything else?
Team number 1.
Yep. Exactly.
Yeah. So, lastly, team number 1. Our last team is Michael and Marcus.
Yep.
They push hard and go hard, and they were one of the only other teams that did the camel, snacking, if you will. I would say hanging out with camels, feeding them the water and the hay. I'm kind of surprised that they didn't decide to switch when they realized how strenuous it was when they got 3 pails or 3 pots full of water, and how it was just a drop in a bucket for that. But they pressed on. They did well. They finished, was it second this week, I think?
I think they were
Or third. Yeah,
third.
third, I think. So they dropped a little bit in the finishing, but they're still doing well. I still don't see them struggling much, and they're just kind of pressing on.
Yeah, and they said every week they go through the race and they try to learn from what they did right and wrong every week. They said they go through and they said, okay, what do we do right this week? How can we improve for next time? That's really a smart thing to do. And they said I do feel like they work pretty well together. They're military, so like they said they had a task they had to get done. They wanted to switch, I think, but they were like, we're here, let's just get it done, because who knows how the next one's gonna go. And I also think they're the kind of team who, like, if they have a choice between thinking and just physically doing something, they're just gonna do it.
Yeah.
And attention to detail is not necessarily the strongest suit, but also one the reason they're still here is because they did kind of have a bad leg. They made a bad decision he said he made a bad decision going for the camel one as opposed to the and the animal ones are always tough because the animal could be a pain in the ass. It happens a lot, and you have to get them to. You can lead them to water and make them drink in this case,
Right.
and it's tough. And he said he made the wrong decision, but they still finished high.
Yeah.
So if they make a good decision and they do the easier task, they win.
Yeah.
So I feel like even when they make bad choices and make bad decisions, they're still strong enough to overcome their mistakes. So that's why they're still number 1.
Yeah, agreed. They haven't fallen down like too far and kept up.
And I don't think they've even won a leg yet, but they've been they won one maybe.
I think they won 1 leg. Yeah, I'm pretty sure they.
Well,
won
this is the
one.
5th one, right? It's 4th because they had 4 of them because they had Derek and Claire won,
Yeah.
and then the second leg I think was Molly and Emily.
They did win 1, but I don't know if it was second because they thought Lumba and
They won
Glenda won 1.
second, the second one, and then the mega leg was won by Emily and them, right?
Emily and Molly.
And then this is the 4th one that had to finish.
This today was week 4.
Well, it's week 5, but the one was double.
Ah.
So they might have been first. I think that's what happened. I think they were first going into the second half of the Mega League.
Maybe.
And so they technically didn't finish first, but they were first going. Yeah, okay.
Yeah, I don't remember now.
So they definitely didn't win a leg yet, but they've been second or third every time. You know, so they're right in it. They haven't made too many mistakes. The ones that they made, they were able to overcome pretty quickly. So
yeah, I'm still thinking. I feel like they won the Switzerland one or German or whatever it was, but maybe they didn't
I think they were
because they
second.
took a while for the bells.
yeah, I think they were second,
Yeah.
but maybe
I don't
not. No,
it's neither
doesn't
here
matter.
nor there. Doesn't matter.
Either way. Anything else? That's they're currently still number one team.
They are, yes. I'm fine with that for now.
Cool. We'll see. We'll see. And Molly and Emily slept a little bit too. So, yeah, the top team's been kind of, fluctuating a little bit.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah.
Anything else to add?
I don't think so.
All right.
All right. So be sure to subscribe to our Facebook page, Pavement Road Productions, right? Our email address, pavementroadproductions@gmail.com. Like and subscribe our YouTube channel, get all the updates. You know, if you want to hear me talk about The Amazing Race, because it's fun and good, why not? We'll have our Survivor shows coming out. The one from earlier tonight has been posted. And then, of course, his fantastic politics show.
Maybe some sports stuff on there.
Perhaps some sports stuff coming up. Go Yankees.
Sabres.
Go Phillies. Go
Bills.
Sabres. Go Bills. All of the teams.
Yes, I hope all of them win.
Yeah.
Okay.
Everybody gets a medal.
Yes, it's quite the participation trophy, Jessica.
Totally joking. Just saying. Hashtag just saying. Yeah, so have I missed any of our platforms, or did I hit all of them on the nail?
I think you nailed them all.
Twitter, I don't know about Twitter, Facebook, all that stuff, yeah. What?
That's it.
That's it. All right, so if we got nothing else for you tonight, I wish you good night and safe travels.
Bye.